All right, so my yard has all these big trees in them, I go out there and there's all these leaves now because it's this time of the year, and you're like, oh, but it's late in the year. Like, yeah, I usually procrastinate, and before you know it, it's like 12,000 pounds of leaves. So I'm taking a break, and I'm just, because something I was thinking about, you know, and what I was thinking about is, once again, I'm back to this real estate thing, and it's been bugging me why it is. And I'm going to answer this question, actually, because someone had asked a question on a DM, and I wasn't sure I understood the question. I think I understand it now. I think I understand what the question was, which is like, you know, why is it that there's this, and so I'm going to paraphrase this, why is it that there's all this push to, like, from the real estate bros and the landlord bros and the rent seeker bros and everything, why is it that there's this push from these guys to, like, you know, get in real estate and get rich? Why isn't there like a regular video that just says something like, you know, or like a guy who comes on and says, hey, yeah, you know, here's how you buy a property that's just yours, and then you can maybe build a house on it or something. It's not like there's, you know, not a shortage of videos on how to build shit, right? I mean, if you have the property, if you have the land, then you can, you know, have a footing poured, or you can pour it yourself, and then build a house. Right, and that way you can have a place to live. In other words, you're not trying. In other words, you're not trying to get rich. You're not trying to be a landlord bro. You're not trying to be a housing bro. You're not trying to drive around and pretend that you're rich in a G500 wearing a goddamn Rolex or something like that. You know, it's always a stainless Submariner too, for whatever reason. Anyway, they don't. There's nobody who does videos like that are really simple, that just appeal to people who are like, man, I just want to buy a house and be left the fuck alone. There's a lot of people that fit in that category that just would like to buy a house or build a house or have a property, be left alone. Especially nowadays, there's more and more people that are like, hey, I'd like to be maybe out in the county and have some goats and chickens and just be left the fuck alone, because you people are gonna, you know, you're all gonna kill yourselves anyway. You guys are crazy, you know. The cities have gone mad, and it's just getting worse. So I'm gonna answer. I realize it's hyperbolic for me to explain it this way, you know, to get the foundation at least, but I'm going to answer this, why I think this is. There is no money in people telling you how to just get a property, build a house, and then be left alone. There's no money in that, right? I think that they tried that, and there's lots of those guys that, like, oh, you know, home buying classes, you know, back in the, early 2000s, there were people doing that. But there's no money in that. See, the personality type of the person going around the internet looking for how to get rich, those guys are incredibly fertile territory, right? Because they'll fall for almost anything. You could approach them with anything. You could tell them, oh my God, you know, here, get into this MLM I just started, you know, 5 minutes ago, and they'd be all over it. They're like, how much? I have $500. Here's my $500. Take my money. That's because they're trying to figure out how to try and be rich with everything, as opposed to, like, I don't know, live a life, right? Remember, the whole point of making money, I presume, is to live a life. Like, that's the point that the reason you make a living is to live a life. You're not trying, you know, what good is it if you're making $1 million a day, but you're working 16 hours a day, and you could never quit? You have to do that or you lose everything. Well, what the hell is the point then? It doesn't really matter then, does it? Okay, this is that whole work, you know, the Zoomers, I think, and millennials call it the work-life balance thing. In the old days, it was just called being an American, but you know, now we've transcended this, right? So we live in a post-profit society. We live in a post-normal society now. So there's no money in. It's sort of like the Dave Ramsey thing, right? Dave Ramsey has nothing that he's a boomer, right? And so he can talk to people with well-paying jobs, W-2 employees who work at a company, presumably they're secure, whatever the hell that means nowadays. I mean, like, for real. And that's who he can talk to, right? He can say, oh, well, you make $100,000, pay all your credit card debts off and everything, and like all this other kind of shit. And it's like, he can't do shit for someone who says, hey, Dave, I'm 20, I'm like 32. I work at McDonald's because it's the only thing I could find that was hiring. I also drive Uber, which means I'm destroying my vehicle. All I'm doing is monetizing the depreciation of the vehicle, which means I'm like pretty much losing money every minute of the day, but I'm getting a zero interest loan, if you want to think of it like that, to keep my bills kind of on the rotation. How am I supposed to pay all my stuff off and my student loans and buy a house and be a millionaire like you teach everybody else? And he's got nothing, right? He's caught flat-footed. That's why they screen all that shit, by the way. They screen those guys out because those guys are asking real questions, right? See, someone who asks a real fucking question, no, because they have no answer for this stuff. All the real estate bros, the landlord bros, all these, like, dude, these guys have no answer for that shit. What they want you to do is go to the class, right, and spend a bunch of money. That's what they're after. They're just after your money. There is no, I've said this dozens of times. I don't know how many more times I have to say it, but there is no money in you owning a property and living in a house and being happy. There's no money in that for anybody, right? The banks don't really make any money. Now you can say, oh, but the bank, if I get a loan, they make money on the interest. And it's like, yes, they make the money in the interest, but it's a fixed interest rate, right? Which means that, and it's always typically below what real inflation is. So they don't really make a lot of money off that. They need you to constantly be churning and burning that property so that other people go in, and so that it's always owed money on. You paying off your house doesn't help the banks at all. So you owning a property doesn't help the banks. You being healthy doesn't help doctors. Doctors aren't helped by that. The medical industrial complex, and all the modern fucking quackery isn't helped by you being healthy and eating right. No one helps. That doesn't move any money to their pockets. There's no money in not having wars, right? There's lots of money in prosecuting a war, but there's no real money in winning a war, right? I mean, unless you're just going to conquer it and steal all the assets. But the world community has decided that that's a bad idea now. So we just have to pretend to have wars and pretend to lose them or something. It's sort of like, football games. You guys watch football games. That shit's all rigged, right? I mean, you understand, like, you think that the gambling against those sporting events doesn't affect the outcome? It absolutely does. You're on crack. I mean, it's billions and billions of dollars. Not to get too far afield, but I mean, it's all related, right? There's no money in any of that. So that's why nobody does this. That's why you'll see all the guys talking about it, get rich in this, get rich in that, and they show a bunch of bling and everything. None of that shit. They don't own any of that shit either, by the way. Bank owns all that stuff. They're fucking rented. You think those guys, dude, come on. Like what, he drives a Lamborghini. Do you think that he dailies that Lamborghini? Dude, go on YouTube. There are guys who have debunked this shit repeatedly. Doug DeMoro did. Right? He's real famous on YouTube. He's super famous. He's got like zillions of fucking followers. He did a video a long time ago, back before he was really like hyper famous, where he's like, he dailied a Ferrari and videoed it just to show people how big a pain in the ass it actually is to try and daily any of that shit. Most of these, come on, dude. Most of these guys are full of fucking shit. But the thing is that it appeals to young people, and they know that young people are they're like, oh man, what am I going to do with my life? How is this going to work? I don't want to be a worker. I don't want to be one of the drones. Oh my God, no. I want to be one of the rich people. They see you guys coming. They do. All these real estate bros and all these classes and all this, like, dude, they see this shit coming. They don't ever talk to you about, like, well, business owners. Just how about this? Talk to a business owner. They're all going to tell you the same thing. I just posted this yesterday. I mean, they're like, oh, I want to buy a house. I'm a business owner. They want you paying insane taxes, right, to loan your money back to you. Let's say you're a business owner. I'll give you an example. You're a business owner and you make $200,000, okay? Now you can deduct everything, right? Because you have that privilege. You can deduct everything. So let's say it shows that you only made $0, right? Well, then the bank says, oh, well, you didn't make any money. You didn't pay any taxes. How much would you have to pay in taxes on 200 grand? Depends on your specific rack, but let's say that you paid full whack on that. Okay, so like, what is that, 60,000 bucks? So you did that for 2 years in a row, so you had 2 years of taxes. You ate $120,000 for the privilege of borrowing $400,000 or $500,000 at interest to buy some overpriced 322 shitbox. And they still won't lend on raw land in most cases. Most banks won't touch it because there's no money in that, right? Because that means all the equity goes to you. Unimproved land is, 100 grand for, 5 acres or something like that, right? So you do that and then you build a house on it. All of a sudden it's worth 700, but that equity goes to you. Well, that doesn't help them, does it? They don't make any money off that. You make money off that. They don't. That's where all this shit comes from. I had to say something about this. Everybody, have a good Sunday. Bye.